Hello and welcome to today's show. I am your host and founder of Heaven to Earth, Susan Fleming, business alignment therapist, equipping kingdom leadership to multiply life without burnout. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. Today's guest is Rachel Jenks. Rachel is the brand boss. With more than 23 years in marketing and communications, her passion is empowering business owners to own your difference and rock your brand like a boss. All right. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for being with us today. I cannot wait to dive into your journey and see how you have really just developed into the leader that we see before us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Susan. I am honored to be here and always honored to share my story.
Well, let's just set the scene for the viewers and kind of take me back to 12-year-old Rachel. What is she doing? What is she like? Tell us all about her.
I love this question so much. 12-year-old Rachel is a dreamer. She believes that nothing is impossible, and her mind is constantly filled with daydreams. Everything from actually meeting the animals from Narnia and having conversations with them to world impact. She is just dreaming about all the things. She's dreaming about her life. She's dreaming about her future. She is probably, unless it is snowing, maybe even if it's snowing outside, she is going on long walks with Jesus. She is just loving life, living it to the full, dancing and singing and truly just embracing wonder, embracing mystery, and taking on life like it's an adventure, because to her it is.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I love that you already had that. Sounds like you already had that passion in you of having Jesus in your life and at least being somewhat aware of maybe some of the things that he had put inside of you.
Oh, absolutely. So Jesus is my best friend, and he has been since I was 2.5. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds crazy young, but my parents are like, no, it was real. It was real, Rachel. So I have heard the voice of the Lord since I was a very little girl. And Jesus is my best friend. And so when I say outside, taking walks with Jesus, like that's literally something I would do all the time. And we would just take walks together. There was a pond across the street from our house, which is probably why I still love just spending time with the Lord by water so much. There was a pond across the street from our house, and I would go for long walks in the neighborhood and just walk by the pond and sit by the pond. And he would just speak to me about so many things, about my future, about my life, not all in specific detail, right? 12-year-old bite size. But also just opening my eyes. Like I saw him everywhere. I saw him in everything, and his love and his majesty in the sunrise and all of that. So yes, I definitely had a very, very personal relationship with the Lord, even at 12 years old and younger.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
Thank you.
At what point do you feel like you really caught that vision of who he was calling you to serve?
I love this question because the answer is I'm still learning. And I think that that's really healthy. I think there are some people who know, as a child or as a teenager or as a young adult or even as an adult, this is who I'm called to serve. But I remember, so we had missions conferences at our church every year, and I have a big heart for the nations. And every single year I would go up front for prayer, I'd come back crying, and I'd tell my parents where I was called to, and it was a different part of the world. And my mom's favorite is the year that I came back and with full seriousness, I didn't even know this was a place, just started crying. I was like, Timbuktu, which is a real place with people that Jesus loves. But so I think for me, it's kind of morphed over the years. And obviously at this point in my life, I know that I'm called to business. And so that's different. That's a different shift. But it's interesting because as I was thinking about this question, I was thinking about how very often for me, I know this is not true for everybody, but for me, the people that I've been called to serve are the people like me.
Mm.
And so when I was a teenager, I was a listening ear for friends, you know? When I was a young adult, same thing. And I might not have known that's all of who I was called to serve, right? I had a season where I had the opportunity to nanny and pour into the life of a little girl, and that's who I was called to serve. I have had seasons when I started my business that I worked primarily with startups who, looking back, that makes sense because that was the same season that I was in, you know? And so even now, as my business has grown and as I've grown and shifted, that's kind of shifted and continues to shift and continues to change. But and even some things the Lord's calling me to step into now, what kind of was the aha moment for me is, they're like me. Oh, that makes sense. And what you're speaking to me about and what you're calling me to step into, you're calling them to step into as well. Okay, this makes sense. So I know this is not the case for everybody, but I feel like for me, a lot of times there are people like me or people who are on the same journey as me, who maybe I don't even like the word a little bit ahead, but I've just gleaned some things that can help them on their journey, you know? So I think it's an iterative process that will probably continue to morph my whole life. But it is really interesting to look back and say, oh, you've always called me to people who are like me. Oh, that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah, I found that in my own journey as well, but it's almost taboo to say, I help people like me, or I serve people like me, right? In the culture that we're in, where you're supposed to, everything's supposed to be really diverse, right? It's almost like not okay to say, I'm attracted to people like me, but that's exactly how God made us.
Well, but I'm gonna push back on that for a minute,
Okay.
because I do think that it's not an either or, right? So many things in the kingdom are not an either or, it's a both and.
Yeah.
I do think there are people who are called to people who are not like them.
Yeah.
For sure. Whether that is economically, situationally, culturally, whatever. And I think when we say people like us, what I'm referring to is identity, purpose, and destiny.
Mm.
So you might be nothing like me, but we've got a similar purpose, a similar destiny, and there's something about our identities that resonate with each other. And I have a deposit that you need to help you step into your identity, because that's really, that's my whole jam, is helping people step into their identity and take their place of influence from a place of authenticity. And so I think that, again, I work with people who are not like me, but they are like me. Does that make sense? And
Yes.
so whether, whether we have natural things in common, I think doesn't matter as much. Now, there are people who are very specifically called like stay-at-home moms with 2 children who homeschool, who are called the stay-at-home moms with 2 children who homeschool. But then there are also people who are called to coach or speak into people who have walked through things that they will never do, right? Like, who are influencers to influencers who will have impact in those areas. So now I'm kind of diverging from the topic at hand, but just going back to it, I feel like that people like us is deeper than what's on the surface. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And I love that you made the clarification, and that's where I wanted you to go.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because I knew what you meant, but just from the outside, someone watching who is maybe not as familiar with some of the kingdom language, or the way that we talk about, like you said, that purpose and the destiny, and we're really getting at the identity. We're not saying that you are only helping people who physically look like you, or it's just women, or it's just the certain age range, but you're really saying, like, the people that I find are attracted to me and that I'm attracted to are people who we're on the same track. We have the same core beliefs, and we're going after the same issues. Would you say
Yeah.
that's accurate?
Yeah. And maybe not even the same issues because we all have different assignments. So, like, I have always been different my whole life. I've never fit in any social circle I've been part of. And so I think for me, this idea of people like me doesn't mean that you are a 5 foot tall when the sun is shining, woman who has been building her business as a single woman, who is a foodie, who is a vet. Like, there might be pieces of that you resonate, but I have served men, I have served women, I have served older, I have served younger, I have served. So, and we each have our own. And when I say served, I don't even just mean in my business, right? Like,
Yeah.
I have brought encouragement and inspiration to people of all walks of life, even people who aren't even business. So, though that is my primary assignment, but see, my primary assignment is business, and your primary assignment could be family, and I can still encourage you from my journey. So I think not even the same issues, because it's not even that our destinies are identical. We may have different assignments, but it's just this, we're on the journey together, and we might not even be going to exactly the same place, but we're on the journey, and what I've walked through can help you in your journey. I think that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's so good to just, bring our awareness to the people that God puts in front of us.
It's all about the one. It's always all about the one.
Yeah.
I mean, we can and will impact people all over the world, but it always begins with the one. That's always who Jesus stopped for.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you feel like it's been difficult to remain focused on that vision he's given you through? Because I know you've been, serving in the marketing space for over 20 years now. And on the one hand, you're like, I've served a variety of people, but on the other hand, you've remained strong in this industry and built a brand. And so has it been difficult to stay focused on that vision and not get distracted by, oh, well, I could go over here and do this, or I can go help this person? And what has that part of the journey been like for you?
Yes, yes, and yes. So I didn't even know, while I've worked in the marketing industry for 23 years, I didn't know that I was called to the marketing industry until about 3 years ago. And it's one thing to function in an industry. It's another thing to know that God called you to impact an industry. And the way that you approach that and the way that you show up there is very different. And very often our journeys don't look like what we would expect. And Susan, a lot of my story, that has definitely been the case for me. And it is very hard. It's very hard because as people who are entrepreneurial and entrepreneurial minded, we can get caught up in shiny objects syndrome. Rather, I am just as guilty of that as everybody else out there, especially as a visionary. I catch a vision, boom, I am off. I am off on the horizon, right? And so I told you, I've been a dreamer since I was a little girl. Yeah. And so that's real. We also can get caught up in, well, this is how we should do it, because this is how society says we should do it. This is how other voices are saying we should do it. This is how we think we should do it. This is how other people are doing it. There's so much that comes at us saying, this is how you should do this, right? Particularly in business, but I think it's true in any area of life. And it is very easy to get caught up in the noise of that and lose focus on God saying, but this is who I made you. And we're going to do it this way together. So yes, that has definitely been a journey for me for 23 years for sure, but very, very intensely the last 3. And, sometimes business is an iterative process and you try stuff And sometimes it sticks and sometimes you say, I'm not doing that again, you know, and you learn and you grow. I mean, that's the thing. We have permission to practice, which is so helpful. And you're going to try stuff that's not going to work and you're not going to get it right the first time. And that's okay. But I think to your point, Susan, what matters is staying focused on who are you? Where has God called you? And how are you and God showing up in that assignment together? Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if it looks like anybody else around you. In my case, it never does. So
Oh, but that leads beautifully to my next question. And that is around authenticity, because that's one of the things that really truly attracted me to you were the tea times that you did. And I want to get into a little bit of how you developed your book. And I know it came out of that those conversations that you were having with the Lord. But within your group that I'm referring to, you just really show up authentically and just hit that live button, and it in a way that you don't see a lot of people doing. And so I'm wondering how you've been able to really step into being yourself and connecting vulnerably and authentically with not just those you're called to serve, but you are just you with everybody.
thank you. That's a huge compliment to me. Authenticity is one of my life messages and it's one of my life passions because I spent so much of my life being who I thought I had to be, being the pastor's kid that I thought I should be, being this to be accepted, being this. Because again, like I said, I've been different my whole life. I've never fit in. And so what do you do as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, as an adult? You do whatever you need to do to fit in and be accepted. But so many times that creates this persona, causes us to take on personalities, behaviors, whatever, that are not who we actually are. And so I have been on a journey now for about, I'm going to say, almost 6 years of God just unpacking that in my life and stripping away all of the outside noise and all of the outside definitions of who I am and freeing me to just be me, to just be Rachel. And that is not easy, but it's so freeing. And it's so funny to me because if you had told me that I was going to put my journal on the internet and like publish it in a book for the world to read, I would be like, no way. Much less that I would be going live in the mornings. I mean, it doesn't get more real than like PJs and bedhead, right? It just doesn't. But I don't care because it's not about that. I think the biggest thing, there's two things when it comes to authenticity. One is knowing who he says I am. Mm. Because when I really know that I know that I know that who he says I am, nothing else matters. No one else's opinion matters. And then when that goes from my head to my heart and I begin to see myself that way, now you have an authenticity that's unstoppable. And then the vulnerability piece of that is if it was about me, I would never do another live. I would never much less in my crazy bed hair and PJs, right? Like I just would not happen, especially because it's so funny to me because I have a background in production. So I like my hair to be done. I like the lighting to be right. I like all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so the day that God said, I just want you to go live and share this, I was like, right now? Like literally, he's like, yes, go live right now. I'm like, but he's like, go live right now, like share this moment. And I think part of the beauty of that is because I share the authenticity of that, I'm sharing the authenticity of that moment, and I'm inviting you and the others in the group into the intimacy of that moment with the Lord as well, right? There are no flashy bells and whistles. It's just me and Jesus and Daddy and Holy Spirit and my tea and my journal. And that's it. And that's what I'm inviting you into. Not polished, not perfect, but real. And I think that there's such a cry in society for the real. Something that God spoke to me about a couple years ago, 2 years ago, I think. He took me to that scripture in Genesis, and he's like, I want to talk to you about being naked and unashamed. And I was like, huh? That was my first reaction, just to be honest. But then we dug into it and how we were created for vulnerability. We were created for transparency. We were created for authenticity. Nothing to prove, nothing to hide, and nothing to fear. And because of that, there is a cry in the hearts of humanity for that. And so it is scary, I'm not going to lie. But when you have the courage to show up that way, you are responding to a cry that now all of humanity responds to, whether you're speaking to one person or many. Which is why we resonate so much when people tell us the good, the bad, and the ugly, when they tell us the real, when somebody is real, when we say somebody is genuine. Our hearts are responding to that, nothing to prove, nothing to hide, and nothing to fear that we see in that other person. And so, or hear in that other person, as the case may be. And so this is why it's so powerful. And I think that the key to stepping into that, like I said, is twofold. So we have to know we have nothing to prove, nothing to hide, and nothing to fear with him and with ourselves. And the next part of it is, it's not about us. It's not about us. It's about the people that our journey is for, our story is for, the people we're here to serve, the people that we are called to impact. If I even record a podcast and I'm nervous and I'm like, I don't know what to say and blah, 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 then I realize that I'm probably thinking about myself. But if I can step back and take a deep breath and remember the person that I'm doing this for, then it flows, because it's not about me, it's about you, which is what leadership is, right? And so when it comes to this authenticity and vulnerability piece, we have to know in ourselves, we have nothing to prove, nothing to hide, nothing to fear. And then when we are secure in that, then we can show up in that for those that we're called to serve. So maybe one day, I have a feeling, I'm like, oh, really? You're going to ask me to do that? Maybe one day you will see those bedhead photos somewhere or videos somewhere on the internet. But even in that, whether it's me sharing something from my business journey or my journal or something painful that I'm walking through, it's not about me, it's about you. And if one person, man, I'm going to cry. If one person can get encouragement from my journey to keep going in yours, that is more than worth it. And what wouldn't I share? And why wouldn't I share if it can help you do that? So, yeah.
You got me crying too, because you have definitely been a person that has done that for me.
I'm so honored. I truly am. I'm so honored. Like, it's the greatest honor of my life that God would use my story and my journey somehow to encourage you, to encourage others. Like, that just, that never gets old, and it never ceases to blow my mind. And so that just makes me all the more want to say, okay, here are my loaves and my fish. And I know it's scary, but I'm taking the key off of my journal, like lock a key off of my heart, and just you take it and you feed the multitudes with it, because that's what it's all about. So
yeah. I would say too, something else I've learned from that is be careful what you write in your journal.
Truth. Very true. And be careful. I don't even know. I was going to say, be careful how you give your yes to the Lord, but I'm not going to, because there's nobody better to give your yes to. And life with him is the best adventure. As scary and crazy and not making sense as it can be. As much as sometimes I'm like, you want me to post about what? You want me to share what? You want me to say what? You want me to tell this person what? I wouldn't trade this adventure with him for anything in the world. So, yeah.
Well, I think your authenticity and your vulnerability is what makes you such a great leader. So I'm curious to know, what do you think makes a great leader?
Thank you so much. I would definitely agree with authenticity and vulnerability. To be fully transparent, I have been in a journey of learning that vulnerability makes a great leader, because being a leader is something I don't take lightly. It's something that I hold very dear and that I steward very intentionally, not just for me, but for the people that I have the honor to lead, whether on my team or in this Facebook community or wherever the Lord gives me the opportunity to lead. I am very, very intentional about that. Leadership is something that means a great deal to me. And I used to think that to lead, you had to be strong and you had to instill confidence in everybody that this is all right. We're going somewhere. And it's really only been in the last year, and particularly, I would say in the last like 6 to 9 months, especially, that I've come to a new place of realizing that you have to be vulnerable to lead. And one of the most powerful ways that we lead is not only by being strong, because there's a time and a place for that, right? And instilling confidence and all of that, but by being real, even when things are not awesome, even when things are hard, and inviting the people that you are leading into that journey with you. And so I definitely think that. I think the other thing that goes into being a good leader has nothing to do with the leader and has everything to do with the people. And it is being a place for them, like speaking life into them, encouraging them, giving them opportunities, and championing them as they step up into being leaders on their own. And so sometimes you need somebody to see greatness in you before you can see it for yourself and see it in yourself. That is definitely true for me. And so one of the things that I believe being a great leader involves seeing that greatness, calling out that greatness, and then giving the opportunity, the freedom, and the permission, even if they fail, for them to learn to step into it themselves. And that, to me, is the greatest joy of being a leader. Nothing lights me up more than seeing somebody that I have had the honor to pour into on any level step in to identity, purpose, and destiny, right? Step up as a leader and take their place. Man, everything inside of me is like, you go, yeah, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. That, to me, is the best part of being a leader, is watching other people come into a place where they are ready to lead.
Yeah. And I love that piece about calling out the greatness in others. And I know that that's something I love to do. Absolutely. And that's something that has been done for me, right? I've been on both sides of that. And so what has that, or how important has that been for you to have those mentors or coaches or just people calling out the greatness that they see in you and helping you develop that lens of identity to see yourself the way that God sees you? How important has that been?
It's everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. Like, I can think of so many examples, but I think back to when I was launching my business that I had even before this one, as a little fledgling baby entrepreneur. I'd been through a lot, and I was coming out of a lot, as my mentor at the time called head trash. And I still call him my coach to this day. He's still my coach. I was coming out of a lot of head trash, and I didn't see the greatness in me. Now, if you asked me, I would say that I saw it, but I didn't really see it. And I was really scared, and I had given God my yes, but I knew that I had no clue what I was doing. Like, I was not naive to that fact. And I didn't know where it could go. I didn't know what I had inside me. And so the way that he mentored me and poured into me called out that greatness. Like, he saw brand boss in me years before I ever saw brand boss in myself. And he would say these things, and he would remind me, and he would challenge me and give me perspective and encourage me and give me opportunities to grow and introduce me to the president of the Chamber of Commerce and all of these things, because he was calling out that greatness in me and then providing opportunity for me to see it in myself. And here's the other thing. Whenever I would mess up, I used to be such a perfectionist. And if I disappointed anyone, especially him, I would just be devastated and I would feel like a worm and I would feel like all these things we do, right? Shame and self-deprecation and whatever. He would never let me stay there ever, 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 ever. He would call me right back up. He would call me right back up and he would be like, all right, so first of all, there are worse things in the world right now. Like, let me just remind you of this. There are worse things in the world right now. Let's talk about some of them, and then like, you made a mistake. How are you going to make it right? Okay, good. Now you know who you are. God's called you to this. Let's move on. And just never would let me wallow in that place of, because really what it becomes is self-pity at that point, right?
Yeah.
We call it like, oh, I messed up, but it's really self-pity. And he would call me out of it. So that's one for sure. And I think when I look back on very strategic mentors, right? Like this gentleman, Dan, when I think about mutual mentor of ours, Deb Alexander, it's been that same thing. It's been, I see the greatness in you. I'm going to call you out and I'm going to give you opportunity and permission to spread your wings and step into that. And then not only that, but I'm going to give you opportunities to fly. I'm going to give you introductions to people. I'm going to champion you. I'm going to share what you're doing on social media or go live with you or any of those things. I'm going to speak encouragement into you. And every time you get discouraged, I'm going to remind you of who you are. I think that is the biggest thing when I think about, because I've been blessed with some amazing mentors in my life, but there are 3 in particular who have very much shaped my entrepreneurial journey. And that is Rex Fisher, who was way back when I was just beginning to step into entrepreneurship, long before I ever knew I would be doing this on my own, and Dan Morey and Deb Alexander, who have really done those things for me, seen the greatness in me, called it out of me, championed me, provided opportunities, introductions, and even platforms for me to step into it. And then every time I got discouraged, reminded me of who I am, which is so powerful.
That is so powerful. And that's how I would describe you, though. Like, I see you championing other people all the time. Like, there is for sure no sense of like competition at all. You're just like, I love you and I want you to be great.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the truth. And, I think there's a couple of reasons for that. But the biggest thing is when somebody has championed you and the impact that that has made, you want to do it for everybody else, right?
Yeah.
Some of it is my identity, but a lot of it is also what championing of me has done for me is a gift that I want to give to those around me, for sure. And then when it comes to this whole competition thing, I used to not always be that way. And whenever you look through eyes of lack, you only see like lack of opportunity, lack of possibility. Okay, well, then I got to grab onto everything that I can. But when you look through the eyes of abundance, it's not me versus you. We're in this together. And even if we're doing the exact same thing, there are more than enough for me and you. And guess what? Because of how I am uniquely wired and the unique strategies and everything that I have and that you have, there are people that I am called to serve and people that you are a better fit to serve because of what you bring to the table that I don't. But you have to be able to see with eyes of abundance in order to see that, and to see that we're about collaboration, not competition. When we collaborate, everybody wins. When we compete, everybody's in this constant grasping struggle. And in the end, everybody misses out, including the people that were there to serve, because you're so focused on keeping up with the competition that you miss the person who's right in front of you and you get distracted from that. So when you have eyes of abundance, then it doesn't matter what's going on around you. You just show up as who you are and you serve and you champion everybody else as they show up as who they are and serve the others, because that's what it's about at the end of the day, is the impact that we're here to have and the people that we're here to serve. And, one can put 1,000 to flight, two can put 10,000. So I can serve this many people. But if we're doing this together, then how many more people can we serve? I just hit my mic. How many more people can we serve? How much more impact can we have if we're doing this together? So why wouldn't I celebrate that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What is something that you think people seem to misunderstand either about you or about the industry that you're in?
I like this question. I like where you went with it. Oh my goodness. Misunderstand about me. So many things. So many things. You're so tiny. Okay, I am, but let's go a little deeper than that. Oh, you're so sweet and you're so, yeah, but I'm also feisty. So there's that.
Yeah.
As you know, Susan. So those are some things that people misunderstand about me. I think one of the things that I wonder if people misunderstand about me is that I like being vulnerable, that I like sharing my journal on the internet, that I like letting everybody in behind the scenes. I think that's something that I wonder if people think about me, like, oh, sometimes you have this idea that Rachel, you're just like, oh, there's Rachel sharing something vulnerable again. Yeah, what you don't know is actually every time I do it, it's still hard. And I'm still like, you want me to do what? You want me to talk about what? You want me to share what? You want me to podcast about what? I don't like doing it. I should rephrase that. It is not easy for me to do that, but I choose to do it because I know it will help you or it will help somebody. But I think there's this misunderstanding sometimes that like, oh, it's so easy for you. No, it's not. But I've already made my choice. So I think something that people misunderstand about the industry, I could go on and on about this. Marketing was never supposed to be about manipulation. It was never supposed to be about gimmicks. It was never supposed to be about hype. I'm going to say something unpopular. It was never supposed to be about scarcity or FOMO or any of those things that put people into a trauma state of mind, by the way. Why would we ever do that to the people that we serve? And we make the stupidest decisions when we are afraid. So why do people think this is a good idea? You wonder why they have buyer's remorse? Maybe you shouldn't scare them into buying. Anyway, told you I'm feisty. So there's this whole idea that marketing is all about this and about trends and about being cool and about you name it. No, marketing is communication and connection and connecting you to the people that you serve. That's what it's all about. It was always supposed to be about people. It was always supposed to be about building relationship and making connection and communication, not any of this other junk.
I love that. And feel free to always give the unpopular opinion here.
Thank you.
Because I do it all the time too. So what do you think is really the most important skill? I know it's hard to pick one, but what do you think is a really important skill that someone needs to not just learn, but master to sustain a successful business?
Perseverance, without a doubt. Perseverance, because there will be ups and there will be downs, and it will not look like what you expect. And you will have seasons that feel like, what the heck is happening? I thought I was called to this. Why does it feel like everything's falling apart? Nothing makes sense. If you have not already chosen, first of all, it's a choice, right?
Yeah.
If you don't choose perseverance, and if you are not able to master that skill, then you will not make it in business. Because business is a long game. It's about the long haul, particularly for those of us who know we're here who know we are here to make an impact and are called to that. It will not always be an easy road. And a lot of times it will not make any sense. And if you don't persevere, you will not make it. But if you do persevere and you have the courage to trust and to choose and to keep saying yes, even when it makes no sense, and keep putting one foot in front of the other, in front of the other. That right there is how you build a business.
I think there's a huge key in that. You call out perseverance as a skill, and that it's something that can be cultivated.
Yes.
Because so many people will be, well, that's just not me. Like, I've never been that person. As if it's, an inherent like character trait or something, and you have to be born with it.
Oh no. I mean, who comes into this world thinking, yay, things are going to be hard and I'm just going to keep going? Like, nobody does.
Yeah.
Oh, a personality trait I would really love to have is perseverance. Do you know what that means? That means you're going to go through some stuff. Is that what you want? Like, all of these things that we think perseverance is, perseverance being an emotion. Heck no. Like, no, perseverance is definitely not an emotion. It is absolutely a choice. And just like any other choice, you can choose to make it. And that sounds very simple. But when the rubber is hitting the road and you don't know what you're going to do and you don't see a way forward, what are you going to choose? And the more that you choose, the more that it becomes a honed skill. And so for me, I gave the Lord my yes a long time ago. I had no idea the things that was going to mean, right? Like, I mean, I said yes to living in a hut in Africa. I said yes to all of these things. I didn't know that was going to mean saying yes to keep moving forward when you have no money and you have to be able to pay your team somehow and you've got creditors calling on your bills and you don't know what you're going to do to even buy groceries the next day. Like, let's just get that real.
Yeah.
Am I going to throw in the towel? Am I going to go get a job? Am I going to go do these things? Like, for some people, that is the answer, and I'm not knocking it. But for me, in my own journey, these are some of the things that it's meant. And I'm just being very real about that. Because we already said that God makes me share my life on the internet. There you go, internet. But if I hadn't said yes to launching in the middle of a season where it made no sense, where I didn't even have a computer to start with, I said yes. Now, here's the thing. It didn't start there, right? That was a yes and a choice that had been honed in my life over years to keep dreaming when it felt like all the dreams were falling apart. Like, all of these things, the more that you say yes, the more that you choose, it's that intentionality of choice and commitment, really, where perseverance becomes a skill that's honed in your life. So when it doesn't make sense to anyone else and maybe even to you, but you know that this is what God is saying, you've got a honed skill and you just keep going. Otherwise, I would have thrown in the towel a long time ago. So many times. Like, I can't even tell you. And the more that you, like, how do you hone a skill? You hone a skill by practice. So maybe it's a workout. Maybe it's, oh my gosh, do I really have to do this again? Maybe it's a whatever, right? Where are the areas that you are being invited to persevere right now, whether you're in business or not? Because they're not all about business, right? Maybe it's trusting him for something that you've been waiting on for years. Where are the areas where you're being invited to persevere? And say yes and make that choice, because every invitation to persevere is an invitation to practice that skill and hone it so that when the rubber hits the road, that skill will be there. Just like any other skill that you practice and you hone. And then when the rubber hits the road, you can, I don't even like using the word fall back on it, but you can rely on it.
Yeah.
You've practiced and honed a skill. When you've practiced and honed the skill of perseverance, then you can rely on it and keep going. And when you keep going, he who began this work will be faithful, no matter what it looks like right now, no matter what you see. Because now it's not an emotion. It's not a personality, right? It's not a, you were born with it. No, it's a choice. I know whom I have believed, and I am persuaded that he is faithful to keep that which I have committed to him. And therefore, I'm going to put one foot in front of the other, in front of the next, in front of the next, in front of the next. It's like a hike, right? Like I love hiking. There are times that it gets hard and grueling. You know, there's this meme going, or not meme, I keep calling it meme, but a TikTok going around right now. Do you believe this hike ever ends? Sometimes life feels that way. Sometimes business feels that way. But if you get into that mindset, then you're definitely not going to keep going, whether it's on a hike or in real life. If it's on a hike, that's dangerous right there, you know?
Yeah.
But if you keep your eyes on where you're going, if you keep focused on what he said to you, and you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, in front of the other, in front of the other, and you hone that skill of perseverance, that's how you're going to keep going and get to where you're going. But the more that I grow, the more that I believe it's about the journey, not the destination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it does have to be an intentional decision.
It does.
And a lot of people don't realize that. They didn't commit to the hike.
Yeah.
And they're trying to turn around. And it's a one-way.
And you're too far up the mountain now. I mean, it's going to take just as long to get back down as it did to get up. And it might be steep and it might be hard and the altitude might be getting to you and you might be tired and your legs might be aching. I hear you. I feel you. I've been there. I am there. But if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, in front of the other, it will be worth it.
Yeah. Well, we started we started out, there we go. We started out talking about 12-year-old Rachel. So let's come back to her for a moment. If you could turn back time and talk to her, what would you say today?
I'm going to get emotional. Beautiful dreamer, don't ever stop. Don't ever stop, no matter what it looks like. Your life is not going to go according to your plans. And sometimes it's not even going to make sense. And you're going to go through some hard stuff. But sweet, beautiful dreamer, don't you ever let go of those dreams in your heart. And don't you ever stop dreaming, no matter what.
I'm just going to leave that there. That's so good. I mean, I think there are probably people today that need to hear that.
Don't stop. Don't let go of the dreams that he's given you.
Yeah.
Don't let go of what he's put in your heart. Don't dig up and doubt what you've planted in faith. I know that's easier said than done, believe me. But if I could speak one thing to your heart today, it would be hope. Don't you stop dreaming, beautiful dreamer, because the dreams that he has for you are exceedingly abundantly above all you could ask, think, or imagine. So have the courage to dream again, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it feels like, no matter how life has buffeted you or how discouraged you've been. Would you dare to lift your eyes and dream again? Keep dreaming and don't ever stop, no matter what it looks like.
Rachel, I just feel there's been so much weight on our conversation today. And I think there are going to be men and women both watching this series on leadership and maybe feeling like they're at the point of, how do I keep going? Would you just release a blessing to the viewers, and wherever you felt led to go, I'm here for it.
I would be absolutely honored to do that. First of all, I see you and I honor you, and heaven does too. I see that you're tired. I feel that you're weary. And I want you to know there's no shame in that. None whatsoever. I also want you to hear that you are not alone. You are not alone. It feels like you are alone. It feels like how why are we even doing this anymore? But he sees you. He hears you. Heaven champions you. And I champion you in this moment too. And so, Father, for each person who feels like, how do I keep going when this makes no sense? I thank you that against all hope, in hope, Abraham believed, and it was counted to him as righteousness. And so, Lord, I am asking for that hope against all hope. Doesn't mean against all hope, it means in spite of what it looks like to rise. I speak hope and life into you right now. Let the dreams that God has birthed in you long ago come alive. I speak resurrection to dream that has died. I speak resurrection to hope. I speak resurrection even to your perseverance, where there has been I don't even know why I'm doing this anymore. I might as well just throw in the towel. I declare over you that the dream is alive. The dream is alive no matter what you see, no matter what it looks like. The dream is alive. And not only is the dream alive inside of you, but so is the promise. And not one word from his mouth returns to him void, but prospers in the thing for which he sent it. And so I speak to those seeds that have been planted, that you and he have planted together, and the seeds that have been planted in and through your life. I speak to those seeds to germinate, to the roots to grow down deep to where they are immovable, the shoots to come up and the shouts to come out, and the fruit with it, that it would bear fruit that is abundant. And fruit speaks of multiplication because every piece of fruit contains within it the ability to multiply. And so I declare over you right now that the things that you have sown in tears, you will reap in joy. The things that you have sown into the ground, the words that have been spoken over your life, and the things that you have spoken and put your hand to, that there will be a reaping with joy. I call for that germination and that fruit that brings forth fruit that is not only a harvest for you and for those around you, but a harvest that multiplies. I declare over you harvest that multiplies, fruit that multiplies in every area of your life. This has not been in void. I break off discouragement and depression and disillusionment and disappointment. And I declare over you that you will not any longer allow any place for disappointment to disappoint you where heaven has appointed you to stand. I release to you strength. I release to you courage. I release to you hope, and I release to you perseverance to keep going, to lift your eyes, to be reminded of why you started, and to keep going, knowing that he's got you. And he who started this work is and will be faithful to complete it, not only for you, but with you. Let the tangibleness of God with you in this moment be so evident, be louder than any voice around you, that you would know that you would know that you know that he's got you and that he's never letting go, that your hope would arise and that you would step boldly forward as who he's called you to be into all that he has for you. I bless you. I bless the dreams and imaginations of your heart. I bless the thoughts and the strategies of your mind. I bless the things that he has put in your hand to steward. And I bless the people that he has surrounded you with and is going to bring across your path today to love. In Jesus' name, let this be so.
Woo! Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
My honor. Absolutely.
It has been I don't have words. It's been incredible just being with you today. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll have to do this again soon.
Absolutely. It's always a joy to be with you, my friend.
Wow, what an incredible conversation that we had with Rachel today. I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to learn more about me or any of my guests, all the links are in the description below the video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share it on all your social pages. Until next time, remember that you have the power to multiply life without burnout. We'll talk to you soon.